Evening, everyone. So I'm presenting today my research dissertation, which is titled "In What Ways We Can Support Siblings Who Have, Children who have a sibling with autism." This was in collaboration with Cork Rainbow Centre for Autism, which is based in Mahon in Cork. So just a small bit about the collaboration. First off, I graduated from UCC with a Master's in Social Work, and through my course I did one of the CARL projects. So it's a community academic research link. So in my opinion, I took the easy way out. I collaborated with an amazing organisation to do a piece of research on their behalf. So instead of going into the library, I was visiting their workshops, I was attending their sibling ones, and just finding a bit more about them and what they needed to support funding applications in the future. So the Rainbow Club presently support over 610 children within the Cork area. They do everything from therapies, speech and language therapy, counselling, art therapy, sibling workshops, parenting counselling, and they're constantly expanding their services. They are a phenomenal resource within the community, but definitely we need them across the nation. They're just phenomenal. So then just a small bit about myself. I started volunteering with children with autism and intellectual disabilities when I was a teenager doing summer camps. Absolutely adored that. So then I went to CIT and I did social care in college. I went on to work in residential disability services, which I just thoroughly enjoy to this day. But I wanted to advocate more for the person with the disabilities and just get their voice heard a bit more prominent. So then I went back to do social work because I feel we can be advocates while still maintaining a person-centered approach in our practice. So thankfully I finished that, it's safe, I'm out the gap. So I want to ensure that their voice is heard throughout, so therefore the collaboration really worked with the Rainbow Club. We decided the research questions for my dissertation together. We really wanted to focus on what supports were available for the people I interviewed while they were growing up and what they felt could have been done differently. I was also curious to see the role they had within their family, especially were they young carers, were they allowed just be siblings to the child with autism, what happened, and did this impact what they're doing now? So then, obviously, with pieces of research, you have to look at literature. There was very little, very, very little. Most of it emphasised the child with autism or the parent. There was absolutely nothing in regards to siblings. They seemed to be the forgotten group, and we wanted to ensure their voice was heard through this literature. In the overall school population, looking at different census within Ireland, there are about 1 to 1.5% children with autism in your general population. When you look at specific special schools, that percentage goes up to 52%. So there needs to be far more supports than there is at the moment, and there needs to be a far more awareness in regards to education and how we work with people with autism. So then, when I was looking at how to approach this piece of research, I felt interviews were the most beneficial. I wanted to take a kind of backseat and ensure that the voices of the interviewees were heard above anything else. I decided on semi-structured interviews. So I'd open with a question, they could tell me as much as they wanted, they could veer it in any way they wanted, and if they didn't want to answer something, that was okay too. So it was really led by them. I then had certain themes coming up throughout each interview, and so they really decided how my dissertation was going to go, which was really great and surprising at the same time. One of the main quotes that I thought was powerful was in regards to, say, you know, the analogy when you hear about if you're on a plane, you put your own oxygen mask on first before you support anyone else. One of the interviewees said, "It is not possible to support the child if the people supporting the child are not supported." So simple, but definitely needs to be emphasized so much more. So then in regards to themes, I'll just briefly discuss them because they're very, very prominent, very important to highlight. Theme 1 was around feelings, and this came up for each interviewee. Negative and positive, I felt was very important to highlight. Theme 2 was the supports available. I put this into categories of the community and family because these were quite prominent, and then the professional supports, which were quite absent. Moving forward, suggestions they had for the future and what they'd like to see happen in the future, and then role clarification, their role within the family and whether this influenced where they are now. So with each of those themes, I'll read out a few of the quotes. These are directly from each of the interview participants. So with feelings, negative. I was so aware of censoring my feelings as I did not want to upset my mom and dad. And then positive. I was always the communicator for him. We had a connection and I understood him. He was the light of my life and a big motivation for me. There was amazing feelings and they were so honest, so blunt but powerful. So there was a lot of resentment, but there was a massive amount of love for their sibling as well. Supports available then. With family and community, there was a lot of support, but sometimes not the one that they desired the most. So I spent a massive amount of time at my nan's house. I'd even go as far as to say she probably was my primary caregiver. That interviewee, while she was so appreciative of that, all she wanted was her parents with her. So it was a kind of happy and sad one. I could have talked to my mum, but she had her hands completely full. So even at a young age, these interviewees had such an awareness of what their parents were going through. One of the ones that I liked the most was a parent who sat her children down to watch the Temple Grandin movie to try and explain autism to them. Very clever, but you can just see the lack of supports available at that time. Professional supports then was a bit stark. I went to the school counsellor and I was told to go for a walk and drink lots of water, which I suppose is helpful but may not be the best. They had nothing for siblings. I attended a workshop for a couple of weeks, which was fun, but then it ended. That was across all of them, and they were the ones that were fortunate to have something. A lot of them didn't. Moving forward, suggestions for the future. Educating teachers in school. These children are professionals at hiding their emotions. Counselling, respite, sibling supports, groups so that I can realise I wasn't alone. The sibling role then. Obliged to take on a caregiver role for my younger sibling. I had to parent myself, growing up quicker and to accommodate the needs of my sibling. I didn't venture too far outside of it from my career. It gave me empathy and skills to deal with people. And then the most important piece of my research was the recommendations. So these were to support the Cork Rainbow Club in looking for funding in the future and resources to continue the fantastic work that they're doing. A helpline for inquiries relating to ASD and a support line for siblings to be able to access advice and support informally, even a text service or a chat line so that they can have a safe, open place to just ask a few questions. Sibling workshops are a no-brainer because they're so phenomenal, but they need to continue and they need to be all across Ireland. Counselling supports were massively lacking for both parents and siblings, especially when they received a diagnosis, then to be followed up and regularly reviewed. They may not want that space at the time, but they may be very grateful in a few months afterwards. Family therapy, where the whole family is involved. Education around autism and disabilities in both primary and secondary education for teachers, students and parents. A booklet to describe autism in a child-friendly format, and support around communication strategies, PECs, LOV, all of those. And then just a small reflection to finish up. I feel further research would definitely be beneficial in this area. It just happened this way that all the siblings I interviewed were older siblings. I think interviewing younger siblings would be very interesting as well, so I think that could be done in the future. Also, my piece of research, while I was very fortunate to do it and I could attend one of the workshops, I did my interviews online through the ethics board. I would have loved to do face-to-face, build up a rapport and maybe get a bit more information from everyone. But it was still a phenomenal experience and I'm very grateful I did it. My email is with everyone here. If you want to contact me or if you want the slides, there's loads of pictures from Cork Rainbow Club and everything, just let me know. And thank you so much.
Thank you.